the dang music. You got questions. I got answers. Hope you guys are well. Happy Saturday. God, I forgot what day it is. It's been a rough week for me. It's just been a week of a lot of weird shit going on where I've forgotten the day. Trying to enjoy the last bit of summer. It's the 15th, was it the 15th of August? Got about 15 more days of August. September generally here in Pittsburgh is good weather-wise. So there'll be some like summery days and there'll be some kind of chilly days in September. Going to the Jersey Shore at the end of the month. I was born in the Jersey Shore, so I'm very excited to take Jill there. She hasn't been there with me. So we're going to have a real good fucking time. And let me give you an update on 250 tests. So it's been 2 months and 4 weeks, something like this. No, so it's been 3 months on 250 test. I feel phenomenal. I don't have any side effects. I just got over my levator scapulae injury. I actually re-fucking injured it yesterday, but not significantly, so I should be okay. But my gym time has been a little stifled because of that. My physique is definitely improving. Once you go on sports TRT, you start pushing cycles, the first thing you notice after about a month, if you're pushing, is a lot of fullness. So basically every muscle on your body looks bigger and, you feel bigger. This is my physique basically currently without a pump. With a pump, it's actually a lot more gnarly. But I'm happy with it because on cream, I lost a good degree of that sort of sizey look. And, back on an anabolic dose to test, I feel a lot better. I'll have to get you guys a fucking pump pic because the pump pics are actually gnarly. But I'm pretty happy with it. I'll be on 250 for at least 6 months. We're just going to see how much muscle we can put on. And I honestly like the dose as TRT. So let's talk about what's transpired. For the first 2 months, I didn't need to control estrogen. Doing every 7-day injections gaps it out enough for me where the trough on estradiol is enough to keep me in a reasonable place in terms of sexual function. Libido has been good. Erections have been good. But those things started to go a little south at about the 2-month mark. I let that pass for another 3 weeks and then had to control estrogen finally. So it took a while. I've seen this happen before with other folks who, it typically happens. It actually happens on the honeymoon period of TRT where, things are good for a while and you actually have elevated serum estradiol and things are still amazing. Libido is great. Erections are great. And then suddenly it just falls off. It is the common story that happens to pretty much everybody or a lot of folks on TRT. And it probably has to do with a saturation or a buildup of estradiol at the tissues and the subsequent actions that it has at those tissues. So I took a one-off sort of front-load dose of 0.25 milligrams of Arimidex. That basically solved all the libido and erection issues, which were starting to definitely go south right away. And since then, it's been a maintenance 0.125 once a week. And I got to tell you, man, it just, again, reinforces. I haven't had to take an AI in a long, long time because I was doing cream. It just reinforces everything I've seen in coaching. No side effects, sensation, libido, right on fucking back. I'm like an absolute fucking animal with Jill. And we've been having a good time. We've been having a great time. So that's the maintenance dose. 250 tests still once a week. It's cypionate. It's injected into the glute intramuscularly. The needle is a 1.5-inch needle. A pretty thin needle too. And 0.125 milligrams of Arimidex 2 days after injection with, at this point, 75 IU of HCG also on that second day. And that's working out really well. I feel fucking great. And the physique is coming around. I just have to stop injuring myself. Regarding product, again, digital products are 20% off. The code is in the description. If you haven't gotten a high-dose TRT Master, I don't know if I have an image of that anymore on here. That is the course to go and purchase. That's my physique pick. I don't know where it is. But it's at the website at livecortex.com. If you're just frustrated with lower doses and you want to try 200 milligrams a week, you want to try 230 a week, we show you how to do it in that course. It's 20% off. It's down in the description of this video. Again, the most popular consults are the audit and the TRT sexual function enhancement consult. I'm basically just continuously getting those. I'm not overbooked, but there are people that are, there are slots available. So go book those, livecortex.com, and let's get into questions. TCS Keith. What's up, dude? I'm 60 and my doctor put me on 100 milliliter a week. You mean 100 milligrams a week? 100 milliliters of cypionate would be an overdose of testosterone. 1 mil is typically 200 milligrams, so that can't be right. Haven't noticed a damn thing since starting. Yeah, you're too low of a dose. That's probably why. If that's 100 milligrams a week, it's too low of a dose to start. That's actually an extremely low TRT dose. There are some people who are hyper responders to testosterone, in which case that's not a bad dose for them because they're peaking at 1500 and they trough down at 800 or whatever. But you probably have to be on a higher dose. If I were you, I would ask doc to trial 150 a week. Do that every 7 days. And then if it isn't enough testosterone for you, go to 200 a week. At that point, you'll have to decide if you've got to manage estrogen. And the common stuff that comes about would tell you that loss of libido during sex, but somehow libido otherwise, or maybe the libido revs up in the beginning of sex, but then you lose it. Loss of nocturnal erections, loss of erectile rigidity and sustenance, and loss of sensation. Those are what happens when estrogen gets too high for you. And then you'll have to decide AI, DHT derivative, lower the dose, do whatever you got to do. Good morning. What's with the doctor shitting on you? Shitting on me for not having a degree in the same breath, praising Dave Lee, who also has no degree in anything related to hormones. Well, he's in their camp is why. I mean, isn't it obvious? He's in their camp, so of course. They also shit on. What did they shit on? What were they discussing in that abomination of a video that they did? They were saying in the same breath, like, actually, guys don't have problems on TRT. Their guys don't have problems, which I find untrue. I think it's completely untrue. Of course they do. I've actually gotten Keith Nichols' patients, and they've got a lot of fucking problems, including ED. But then in the same breath, they said, "Oh, but Gil T's, Facebook group, the one where you get banned if you manage estrogen. It's like estrogen is like fucking Voldemort, and you're not allowed to say it." Oh, it's so bad. They said a lot of weird things, and thankfully we addressed it, and the overwhelming support and response from the community shows pretty clearly who people favor, both in terms of intellect and truth, and who they like more. So I think that worked out quite well. I don't like to feud or disagree with people publicly. But, for sure, if you go around poking in the woods where there's a fucking wolf pack, the alpha does not want to fight you or fuck with you. He's busy getting food and all that shit. But you cross his path, you start fucking being an idiot and playing with it and shit and getting too close, he's going to eat your face off. So let that be a fucking lesson to everybody out there that wants to open their goddamn mouth, especially about shit they don't know about. I'm not some punk, okay? And, you cross my path the wrong way, we're going to have where the gloves are already off. So whatever. We'll see what happens. I have no problem. I was built for war. This live stream has been a staple of my Saturday workday. Cool, man. I hope so, bro. I mean, I love a lot of you that continuously come on here. It makes me happy to see you guys here every Saturday. It's fucking awesome. And if you're at work and you get to watch the stream, that is what's up, bro. I've had a busy work week. I'm excited to take a little bit of time off this weekend. Aside from the stream here, I'm going to probably do a long walk after this rather than go to the gym. And then Ian Gary fights Islam tonight, so I want to watch that fight. Jill's going away with her girls for the day, and she's going to be at my place later on tonight so we can watch the fight. And life is good. Life is good. New Boy Fitz, brother, wanted to give you an update. I was doing 350 a prop. Yeah, I remember this, but you got some anxiety, looks like. Now on 200 a sip Monday and Thursday, and 25 to 50 milligrams DHT, anything. Libido has gone apeshit ever since the DHT. Absolutely, it does that. It does that. Yeah, it's also, the thing about it is it's both the DHT input and the controlling of estradiol, which is what DHT taken exogenously does more so than your endogenous DHT built from your test. It's a wonderful thing, Like I considered dosing DHT because now on 250 test, the estrogen's over and libido, erection sensation started to deteriorate. But I didn't want to deal with any additional hair loss because pure DHT for me is like it starts nuking my hair within about a week. And that nuking regulates, but it's still pretty bad to look at. I don't like looking at my hair and having a bunch of open spots and being able to pull hair very easily from my head. It's deteriorating the function of the health of the follicles at that point. So Instead, I just dosed Arimidex, and I holy fuck. I mean, I'm a goddamn animal regarding libido and erections and sensation. Like sex multiple times a day, which frankly is not very common for most guys, and even me dialed in on other doses of TRT. But high dose test with an AI, and I am a fucking animal, an absolute animal. All right, let's go to live chat here and see what we got. Chad, speaking of the course, you said that you've been finding lower dose of HCG have been better. What do you recommend usually for 200 milligrams? Twice a day, a week injection, twice a week injections, 100 every 3.5 days. This is what I found, and this is where I've moved much more toward Dave Lee's position on HCG and away from, especially regarding high doses of tests. On lower doses of tests, I needed like 300 IU of HCG, and it was like fucking good. It's what actually helped libido and everything to stay the way it needs to be. But on 250 test, I take 75 IU once a week now. On 200 tests, 75 to 150 IU once a week. And that's pretty much it. But you've got to think about these kinds of dynamics. When you dose that HCG on 200 milligrams a week, so like say you dose it on the day of one of your 3.5 day injections, your 100 milligram injections, you're probably going to have some estrogenic side effects, sexual estrogenic side effects. Those are the predominant ones after we all get used to, we don't have any itchy nipples anymore or any mood stuff. Some people always get mood stuff with elevated estrogen. It's usually just dick stuff and libido stuff that needs to be addressed. But, if you're doing that either way, you've got to just monitor the estradiol. I'm sure you are. And good luck with that. Is twice a week better compared to what? You can dial it in, but honestly, look, this is, if we're talking about testipionate, at day 4, it starts troughing in a 7-day injection period, but not substantially if your dose is right. It's not like had a catastrophic drop in hormones. And over time, I can tell you that people get used to doing that, and especially if you manage your health, i.e. you're just a healthy person, you don't have blood pressure problems or otherwise problems. I don't even have additional acne on 250 a week. None. Nothing has changed in terms of like the way my back or arms look and regarding acne. So no, twice a week is not necessarily better in my opinion, because a long ester was made to be injected less frequently for convenience sake. Once a week is better, or once every 5 days. Honestly, the cypionate every 4th, 5th, or 6th or 7th day, those are the best protocols in my opinion at this point. Focus has been crazy. So this is the guy on 200 tests and DHT enanthate. That's the thing. I mean, every time I've taken Proviron, and I think a lot of people can also account for this, you feel like a nootropic-like benefit. DHT has a lot of effects in the brain, some of which I don't think are even published, like studied. We don't really even know. But suffice to say, it is increasing dopaminergic neuron firing and function, which is critical. It may be messing with other neurotransmitters too, particularly acetylcholine, which would give rise to better cognitive function. But I think heavy DHT, like androgen receptor binding in the brain, is masculinizing. So it just fucking makes you better in every way. Men are good at things. DHT makes you more of a man, so you become better at things. If it didn't nuke my hair, I would be dosing DHT and or Proviron every day of my life. Keith's guys don't have problems because they leave him when they do and aren't his guys anymore. Yeah, they don't have problems once they come to people who know what they're talking about and are willing to forego dogma. This is the problem. Medical doctors, some of them are very good. Some of them are extremely myopic. This guy has said things like, there's no therapeutic benefit to reducing estrogen a little bit. And his proof of that is that there isn't a piece of paper that says so, right? As if the absence of a piece of literature proves something to be the case. It is absurd, but that is literally how myopic some medical doctors think. And you know why? Because in the details of the nuance of why estrogen inhibits sexual function, you can't be lazy. to figure that out and thus make alterations to people's protocols. At the same time, Doc has suggested that he's used aromatase inhibitors before. Well, he obviously didn't use them fucking correctly if you didn't end up staying on them, or you found a dose of TRT that was fine. I really don't know what Doc's sexual function is like, but according to them, they've got periods within which their libidos are not good for like a weeks at a time. They think that's just normal and want you to accept that. I've proven otherwise. You know, listen, if you want to have crappy libido for a 10-day stretch when you're married or have a girlfriend, go for it. I don't really want to do that. Brother, been on 200 milligrams Testy and 600 IU HCG every week for the past year. Any benefit to taking a break from HCG while to prevent tolerance? There's not a whole lot of tolerance that takes place with HCG. Nope. No. Listen, if you're good with regarding sexual function and everything else, leave it as is. That's what I would do if I were you. You mentioned finding your highest tolerable dose on injections for best libido. How would you go about doing this on cream? Well, it's a little more nuanced than that. You have to find what I think you might be referring to is finding your androgenic threshold, the dose at which, so long as estrogen is in range, you have the best erectile quality. And everybody should find that. You know, for me, it's about 200 milligrams a week, like with a little bit of estrogen control in that case. It'd be like 0.06 of Arimidex every 7 days with a modest dose of HCG once a week. The erections are pretty comparable to 250 a week with 0.125 milligrams Arimidex once every 7 days. You know, any more, like, again, I've been on cycle controlling estrogen, the erections weren't better. So, you know, that's kind of my threshold there, which is between 1,200 and 1,600 total test and very high free test. But, regarding cream, yeah, I mean, it's the same principle. If you're trying to find an androgenic threshold, if you're starting from baseline, you know, dose 5 clicks of the 200 milligram cream on the scrotum in the morning, and then probably within the first 1 or 2 weeks, you're going to have insane stellar erection. So then you realize at least 5 clicks, you've hit that threshold. But then estrogen's going to catch up and you'll probably have to manage it. And then so the erection quality is going to fail. It's going to make you think you're not over your androgenic threshold. Well, you just were. It's just that estrogen hadn't caught up yet. This is, by the way, as an aside, the exact mechanism by which people have honeymoon periods on TRT, or when they increase their testosterone dose and everything is amazing for 2 to 4 weeks and then it goes south again. Estrogen hasn't had time to catch up. And when it does catch up, especially its actions at the post-receptor binding gene expression in that realm, then you're going to have problems and you have to reduce it. I was on 250 a week. My results showed 3,000 total tests. Was this a once-a-week injection? My peak on this is about 1,800. And I think my E2 was about 40 to 50. That's pretty fucking low for that. SHBG and free T good, but barely felt any mental effects. Thought I'd feel like Superman. That's a weird one. Maybe the estrogen was a little too high for you. I mean, I can tell you this, that like we discussed in taking DHT and Proviron, there's a nootropic, like masculinizing feeling that happens there. And if estrogen's too high, you won't feel that. That's another thing that happened to me. And it happens to fucking everybody, you know, that I've seen over the last 7.5 years, most people at least, where, you know, there's mental side effects to elevated estradiol, you know, like you start losing some degree of your edge, your mental edge, your cognitive capacity, your masculinity, your assertiveness, and all of that good shit. And then, like, for me personally, when I just took the estrogen down with Arimidex after being on 250 tests for, 2 months and some change, I got everything back. I got everything fucking right back. And it's been phenomenal in the meantime. At the same time, I think a lot of people haven't really had a whole lot of experience dealing with women on HRT trying to dial in estradiol. If they're taking estrogen patches and they take too much, guess what happens? Depression, moodiness, gloominess. What else? Mostly that. Like the idea that even though everything in your life is good, everything sucks. I went through that personally. I won't mention the woman, but you guys could probably guess. The wrong dose of estrogen, the wrong amount of estrogen for both a female body and a male body is fucking catastrophically bad. It's just, but I know why the other guys suggest that it is and want to promote it. Because they're in a camp is why. Because they've been saying it for years is why and can't revert. right? Because to them, like, their positions matter more than the truth. You know, and most of them don't want to upset their. I saw a comment on, I think one of Dave Lee's posts, and a guy actually said the right thing. He was like, "You guys don't want to upset your mentor, Rougier. Think for yourself. That's the best advice I can give anyone, you know, regarding estrogen. Just think for yourself. Try thinking for yourself." What kind of natural alternative to Proviron? There isn't one. Trying to boost test and reduce prolactin. Okay, you have to either take P5P or cabergoline, especially prolactin's substantially over range. You're going to need to take a dopamine D2 receptor agonist to reduce it. Get to the bottom of why it's high to begin with. That's another thing you should definitely investigate. And that's going to boost your testosterone alone. If your prolactin is high in your natural, it is inhibiting gonadotropin secretion. Your prolactin is. So your test would be low. Libido isn't the best. Yeah, I forget the context, brother. So if you want to investigate that, put the context back to a super chat and we'll talk about it. Happy Saturday, brother. What's up, dude? Any recommendations on vitamin D? I think I'm reacting carryols to the vitamin D. I've tried D3 from lichens. That helps, but I'm not sure. Well, listen, if you don't necessarily need to take it. I mean, you can get enough vitamin D in your diet, and if you're getting sun, then that's totally fine. You know, it's not a huge deal, man. If for some reason you're having some side effect from the use of it, you've got to look at either reducing it substantially or not taking it. You know, it is a great supplement for us to be taking, generally speaking, but not everyone needs it. You know, monitor your levels and you know, keep them between 50 and 60 if you can, and you'll be just fine. Big Z Baller took 0.125 anastrozole 4 days after 200 milligrams. Finally woke up today after employing an AI 3 weeks ago with a rager and started feeling horny last night. Talking to my girl, thank you, bro. Yeah, that's just the bottom line. That's just the bottom line, dude. Don't crash it though. Don't crash it. You know, you should have measured it at the peak, which is about 3.5 days after your testosterone injection, so that you can see where it is. Because if it's at 85, well, then you know. If you take 0.125 anastrozole once every 6 or 7 days, you're not going to crash the estrogen. All you're going to do is allow your androgens to work. What it seems like is estrogen has its own negative effects at penile tissue, at the brain, inhibition of arcuate nucleus, dopamine firing upstream of the hypothalamus. These are the reasons it toasts your libido and messes with sensation. But, you know, at the same time, estrogen, in my understanding of the scientific literature, which is vast and deep, interferes with androgens' action at ARs. So that is probably another reason that shit goes wrong. I've been saying this for like years. I mean, I think the first time that I'd called out Danny Bossa years ago on the whole estrogen thing, I broke a lot of this down and have been discussing this for at least 3 years on the web, you know, regarding estradiol, probably longer. The bottom line is that, you know, if you go over, you're going to have all manner of problems. Some people claim not to. Those are anomalous situations, and some of them are actually probably lying because they are doctors who are pro-estrogen, you know, or people in the pro-estrogen camp. But, you know, once you get it within the physiologic sweet spot for your body, this is the kind of shit that happens. You know, for me on 250 test, the first thing that went was nocturnals. Then sensation started to dull. And then my libido was fine in the beginning of initiating sex, not bothersome outside of sex. And then it would sort of start to taper out during sex. That's always the indicator. You know, a little bit of AI and I'm like a fucking animal again. Functioning, by the way, like we did when we were younger. Like my libido, all I have to do is just be in bed with Jill. We don't even have to have our clothes off. And I'm just like, forget it. There's no way I can stand sitting here and not going to town. So I'm glad. This is what you should do. Watch the video that I posted yesterday. It's titled like the framework for anastrozole dosing, because there is a set of conditional logic you should employ on dosing anastrozole. And I think the most primary important principle is, number one, of course, start low. But if you find that whatever dose you take is not sufficient to keep you in the sexual function window, don't increase the dose. Decrease the frequency. Please watch the video. It was posted yesterday. It is a very important, very fucking useful video for people on TRT about estrogen control. And that was done just yesterday. Man Medicine is making ED videos with slick thumbnails now. You really got these boys scared. I hope so. I hope they're doing ED videos. Again, as I had basically concluded with toward the end of my, response/refute video, if you're upset that an influencer is influencing people, first of all, this is the internet. That it seems like there was a large undertone that they're upset that people are out there influencing people, and God forbid anyone without medical training, which by the way was not endocrinologically oriented, give advice on TRT. At the same time, if you want to mock me for calling myself one of the world's leading experts in erectile dysfunction, which I am, because I have studied it extensively for a very long time, over a decade on erectile function and erectile dysfunction. And somehow you're slighted by the fact that I'm discussing erectile function relative to TRT on the web, then just do videos about it. Do videos better than mine if you can manage it. And at the end, people talking about erectile quality on TRT, if they're going to do videos which people consistently watch because the advice they're giving works, they will have to say precisely what I'm saying. That's what they'll have to say. Because what I'm saying is what actually happens in the male body, regarding estrogen and ED and all this stuff. So, yeah, good on him, dude. Good on him. Good on them. Good on them. Good on them. That's maybe what they should be talking about. Listen, the elephant in the room is the majority of the problems men have on TRT are sexual function problems. Why are there TRT YouTubers not talking about sexual function? Because they're not experts in sexual function. But they want to mock me that I am. Fucking be an expert on it then. That's what I've been doing for more than a decade, specifically on sexual function. Ugh. I fail to get worked up over those guys anymore. It's more just annoying. It's annoying. It's like, okay, I understand. You've never seen someone who's both a deep intellectual and an extroverted car salesman-y guy who is good at talking. So you're confused. I understand. Well, such people exist. And not because I was born that way, because I'm conscious enough to know that I need to be both. As a business person and as a person, I'm conscious enough to know early on that I had to develop good speaking skills and be socially effective, as well as be deeply intellectual and employ critical thinking in everything I do. Do hybrids confuse you? Fucking good, because you're on the other side. You're just strictly an intellectual, and when you talk, people are like fucking bored to death. Figure it out. So if serotonin is the sexual function inhibitor and norepinephrine is causing the BP, anxiety, and anger issues, how would DHT counteract that as it does for people like me? Yeah, it's not, though. Serotonin isn't the sexual function issue with TRT. It's estrogen. It's estrogen. Whether estrogen modulates serotonin and causes sexual function to be worse is irrelevant. First of all, again, if you just block the serotonin receptors, you're still going to have sexual dysfunction if estrogen's too high. Because what Keith's theory suggests is there are no other mechanisms by which estrogen can cause sexual dysfunction. And there are. Venous leakage is one of them. Inhibition of hypothalamic dopamine is another one. Now, there's a portal system. It's called the infundibulum from the hypothalamus, above which is the arcuate nucleus, where dopamine fires through the pituitary. That portal system's transport of dopamine specifically gets inhibited to some extent with elevated estradiol. This is all that you could go read this in published medical studies. This is why the whole thing is a little weird to me. Anyway, you also wouldn't say, so here's another refute to that argument. Okay, so just say, even though this is wrong, but let's just say serotonin, estrogen via modulating serotonin expression cause sexual dysfunction. Would you blame the serotonin or would you blame the estrogen, right? That camp wants to blame the serotonin, of course, because they're the pro-estrogen people. Naming estrogen bad is like Voldemort. They won't even fucking say it. But if estradiol had some other negative inhibitory effect at the base of your penis, which it actually does in the literature, and it caused some sort of lack of arterial inflow via blockage of the pudendal nerve or something like this, would you then say, oh, my shitty pudendal nerve is shitty and stupid? No, you wouldn't blame your pudendal nerve. You'd blame the thing causing your pudendal nerve to be jacked up in relation to inflow of blood into your penis. If the base of the penis was inhibited because of elevated estradiol, you wouldn't go, man, I guess I was born with a crappy penis base. We're going to name that the issue. It's scapegoating, dude. It's estradiol. It's estradiol. I'd like to transition from cream to injections, as the highs and lows of cream seem to be fucking with me, especially with lows at night. Yeah, the dose probably isn't high enough, but if you do want it, there's a fruit fly in here, and goddamn it, I'm gonna kill his ass. Where you at? Where you at, bucko? Huh? Get over here. Come here. Where? What? You might need a higher dose of cream. You might need to control estrogen. I would approach the switch if you find you can't do that, though. This way, I would inject 150 milligrams of cypionate all in the course of 7 days, twice. I would do it every 3.5 days. And then you'll build up to a sufficient level of testosterone where then you can now start your new protocol. And transitioning from, peaking and troughing, but at least peaking high on testosterone, to a short-acting or a long-acting ester then. It's going to take time for that long-acting ester to build up, and you will feel fatigued and shitty for at least 3 weeks. So you avoid that by front loading. That's what I would do. And then you run your protocol at that point. You're still going to probably have to dial in the dose, the frequency, estradiol, but that's where you start. Thank you, brother. Hey, thanks, man. Fuck. Appreciate that, dude. Oh, you're watching the entrepreneurship content. Yeah, on my other channel, it's just Ryan Michael Ballo. It's attached to Cortex Labs, I believe. That's where I talk about business and life and entrepreneurship and the things I've learned I've been doing this for almost 20 years. I'm an entrepreneur for 18 years. I got out of the Army when I was 24 in 2008. And I talk about all the things that I've learned over there. You're definitely going to see a different side of me, more of an assertive, more of a do what needs to be done, more of a no bullshit side. Like the shit I talk about over there, I'm not there to bullshit you, nor am I here to bullshit you here, but I'm very much talking to men. I'm just talking to men who want to kill it in life over there. It's just called Ryan Michael Ballo. And I just started posting over there. I'll continue to post, but thank you for this, man. I appreciate it. Brother, on high testosterone, I'm anxious, high BP, high E2, and elevated anger and bloating. With exogenous DHT, I pissed out 200 pounds of water. Yeah, it's good. It's blocking the estrogen. It's blocking it at the gene expression level. That's what happens here. Walking boner with super high sensation and no BP problems. Hey, exactly. Well, what does it tell you, man? It tells you it was estradiol, not a deficiency in DHT. You already had enough DHT, but if you take it exogenously, it kind of acts like an aromatase inhibitor or estrogen blocker. Danny Bossa disappeared. Why did that happen? I don't know. The guy has a pretty success, as far as I can tell based on research, he has a successful information technology company in Canada. So he's probably just focusing on that. And, he may not be, that guy was in a lot of controversy. Like there was just a lot of, first of all, I disagreed with him publicly and discussed it. A lot of other people did too. And it may have just become too much for him. Who knows? And everybody's like, I don't care about this shit. Or his business needed him. I don't really know what happened to him, man. But I wish he was still on the web. It would kind of be good to have contrast in this kind of thing. I actually think he's a smart guy. I just think, you get caught in that camp and you get caught in ideology over truth. And some of those guys are really stubborn to change their opinions. I don't really think we'll see a change in their opinions in our lifetime. We'll just see them slowly go away. I'll still be here, though. Thoughts on oxytocin nasal spray? Yeah, I had a video doing it. It was pretty cool, man. I haven't changed my mind, and I just don't use it. I don't use it. I'm not into taking many nootropics these days, but our stuff, Torque, which basically we're going to discontinue because it's not part of the business model much anymore. And, I still have like 1,000 bottles of it left. We'll try to sell them, but it made my mood profoundly better. It made me more loving. It had a very interesting, acute, positive effect. It's not something I would want to dose every day because if you, as far as I remember, according to the literature, if you dose exogenous oxytocin, you will start to pretty immediately shut down your endogenous, kind of secretion of oxytocin, which you don't want to do. I assume it would recover if you stop, but it's not something I want to do. 1 milligram of Arimidex pills are already so small. How are you getting them to an eighth? The way to do that is first to try to get 0.125 milligram compounded tablets of anastrozole. You can do that via having your doc send a script for that to a pharmacy that compounds, i.e. Empower Pharmacy in Texas, or You take your 1 milligram pill, you go on Amazon, you get a pill cutter that splits into fourths. There is a 1/4 pill cutter on Amazon, and it's actually very precise. You cut them into fourths, and then you got 0.25 per. Then you cut that in half, and you get 0.125, and you can actually do that. Man Medicine covered ED in his new video. It's not E2DHT, but a blood vessel and vascular problem. Of course, it's a blood vessel and vascular problem. Again, naming, the thing that may be happening downstream, but not naming the cause, which is estradiol. Good luck, Man Medicine. I used to respect you. I used to. But, now I did a little further research and watched. They actually have a history of like getting together and attacking people on the web. It's the weirdest thing. And look, to each their own, but the thing I've learned over the years is that being like a successful person who is an entrepreneur specifically, and I think you kind of need to be doing that in order to get out of this old bullshit attack everybody mindset. You don't want to attack anybody. I don't want to attack people. Dude, if there are people doing great things, I want to learn from them. I want to know how. I want to prop people up. I want people around me succeeding. I want people in my life succeeding and doing better. And if there's anyone doing better than me, which there are fucking scores of people doing better than me in life. But if any of those types come across my radar, I'm instantly in learning mode. I just want to know what they know. I want to know how they've done what they've done. If I meet a real estate guy, because that's my next venture is real estate, and that'll be in about 5 years. I need to put a couple $1 million on some apartment complexes. I would want to pick his brain endlessly, and so the idea of attacking people, it's a thing that successful individuals don't typically do. Don't, especially entrepreneurs, because we recognize how much it takes to go out there when you've got nothing and make yourself something, and then build over the years, build a reputation, acquire skills, all that stuff. It takes a lot. It's arguably more work. It's definitely more cognitive work. So, you respect people that are doing great things, to be making videos, to have a history of kind of like trying to call people like, what do you want to start controversy for? Fucking what? This is the point. Guys like me and people that are focused on doing this in life, you don't have time for that shit, man. We don't have fucking time for that. I'm in my own lane focused on my stuff. I don't really care what other people are doing. I honestly don't care. I'm so hyper-focused that it doesn't matter. And the idea of doing like a hit piece video on somebody, I'd feel like a total asshole. I'd feel like a jerk, first of all. And secondly, I would lose esteem for myself because it's a fucking half-man thing to do. I think it's great. One of your mentors knows who you are and starts talking about you, good or bad. You're doing the right things and challenging their thoughts. Keep it up. I don't know where the pro action camp is going to go in the future. If I were to guess, I don't know. I think that stubbornness is a very powerful human behavior. So people are very reluctant to change what they have said already on the web, especially. I mean, the pro keto guys who eventually got like serious gut dysfunction and like life threatening electrolyte disorders were pretty apprehensive to revert on, hey, you should probably eat some carbohydrates, So it's just the way it is. It's unfortunate, but it's the way it is. New Boy Fitz with a super chat says, favorite part of Nichols' theory is that he gives specific instructions on how to fix it, which is lower your dose. Cool, super helpful. I know it's very, again, props to anybody who's doing TRT stuff and learning about it and all that. But I think there's a lot of laziness in that camp. A lot of laziness, a lot of blaming other things for estradiol and its negative effects. A lot of the discussion about optimizing, other physiologic markers to try to like manage that, which doesn't work. Again, it gets guys thinking they've got liver dysfunction when they don't, thyroid dysfunction when they don't, serotonergic dysfunction when they don't. And it's not helpful. It's not helpful, dude. It's not helpful. Just because you don't want to part ways from your camp, you're saying the wrong thing on the internet, but public people are watching your shit and they're going to go execute your advice if they like you. And if it's wrong, they're going to move to someone more practical like me. And, you're going to be branded a fucking charlatan. The truth of the matter is that there certainly are some charlatans in this space, and it isn't fucking me. It's not this camp. The biggest bullshitters in this space come from that fucking side. I won't name any names. I had labs drawn yesterday, and I haven't gotten ultra-sensitive estradiol back, but I ran regular estradiol to compare it, and it came back at 80. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you should take an AI. You should only take an AI if you're having sexual dysfunction. Yeah, that's it. If you're not, don't touch it. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. I agree that estradiol doesn't necessarily always have to be managed, and that especially if things are good, don't touch it. It means it's in a physiologic zone for you to function fine. But if you're having lack of sensation, dulling of libido, disconnect from libido during sex, and especially erectile dysfunction at any capacity, yeah, you probably should lower the estradiol. Yep. And lowering your dose, well, it won't always solve that problem. This is another misconception out there. So you lower it to 130. Well, now you don't have enough androgens, and this happens to people to support good erectile quality. Okay, you're at 700 total tests. The E2 is finally at 32, but you've lost all the benefits of TRT, and your erections still aren't strong. Go to 200 tests. Dose a little bit of an AI. I bet things will turn around real quick. I'm doing 300 milligrams testy every Thursday. Wait, what? 300 every Thursday? Okay, 300 a week. Okay. Estrogen sensor came back at 71. Claude suggested 12.5 aromas in every 6. That's not a bad dose. That's not a bad frequency either. What are my thoughts? How quickly would I get my E2 in range? Aromasin takes longer. Also, your acute ability to understand the response is more drawn out with aromasin because it's subtler. It's a subtle response. Whereas Arimidex is much more like a fucking hammer. In a day, you will know that it's making a difference. But you still want to approach it on an every 7-day period. Watch the video that I did yesterday. It's titled something to the effect of the framework for dosing Arimidex, but it also applies to aromasin. If I were you, I would start on Arimidex and dial that in so that you know how to solve this problem in the future, and then go down the route of dialing in aromasin if you have to later on, if you want to refine it and take aromasin instead of Arimidex, because it might be better on your lipids. And overall, just a better compound. But, in this case, if I were you, estrogen 71, I would take 0.125 milligrams once every 7 days for two iterations and monitor. At what point after taking the 0.125 does erection quality start to come back? And then how long does that last? Does it last till day 6, till day 7? And then what starts to happen? I would also be measuring estradiol at the trough, like the ultra trough of the Arimidex, which would be about day 6 or so, right when it's going to come back to absolute baseline, just where it was before you started managing it, and that'll help you understand your frequency. But if you watch the video that I did yesterday, that will give you the core algorithm for how to dose Arimidex. And it's conditional logic, and it has to be. You can't dose it haphazardly. You're gonna mess your shit up that way. Don't ask questions like that on the stream. Proviron is not available in the United States. Well, I think you super chatted this twice, brother. Please let me know if you'd like me to refund you, because now that's the second super chat. It must have just gone through twice. I will see if I can refund you that, bro, because I don't think you meant that. If you have a question, please ask it. Yes, right. Okay. All right, sweet. I'll buy some more Red Bull, brother. Thank you, man. I appreciate you, dude. Thank you for being here, man. Means the world to me. Brother, have you ever tried taking test prop 2 days on, 2 days off to prolong the peaks? Yeah, I've done that. No, nothing like, wait a minute. So 2 days on? No, I've never done anything like that. It's not a bad idea. 4,000 plus peaks on day 3 dosing, let me feeling you build off. Well, yeah, that's probably via a lot of estrogen. So, that would be the time to reduce that dose there. I don't think that's an intelligent protocol, brother. You've mentioned in the past that DHT effects stick around after serum levels have cleared, something like that. Yeah, right. The gene expression stuff, DHT's action at the penile tissue, this stuff will last longer than DHT is detectable in your blood after a dose, right? Like luteinizing hormone pulses. They pulse for 30 to 60 minutes, but the effects at testicular sites, the luteinizing hormone, chorionic and gonadotropin receptors, are longer lasting. So it's the same concept. By the way, I'm finally looking like I'm on TRT now, doing 200 milligrams once a week. Right. Got sick of having okay sex drive but no anabolism. Yeah, basically, this is exactly what tends to happen down there. That's why I'm not a proponent of always going down in dose. It will work for some people. But for other people, they're going to lose their strength, lose their anabolism, lose their physical fucking energy, and their erections are going to be fine, but not great. Still need a little bit of Cialis to make them like amazing, and libido is going to be meh. Like, I could take it or leave it. This is the phrase I hear all the time with people down there. I can take it or leave it. You get them to 200 or 220, 230, 250, 210. Control estrogen or not, depends on the person. Then it's like my libido is fucking, what's the word? Monumental. That's where my libido is. I mean, I have pretty much the best sexual function I've ever had on TRT, aside from some prop experiments on 250 tests with a little bit of an AI. I mean, it's just good. The erections, especially though, I mean, they're just Cialis level. They're Cialis level. Having sex multiple times a day, waking up in the morning and being horny. It's just true horniness. This is another thing that happens. People seem to equate estradiol with libido in that, when it rises, it like gives you our males, it gives us libido. No, it doesn't give us libido. It allows libido to work if it isn't squashed by an AI. That's all. That's all. You scale the estrogen up, as I've described, via some dopaminergic mechanisms. It actually inhibits your libido. It starts inhibiting it. If it's too high and you've got a lot of androgens and you take an AI to get the estrogen down, when your libido goes fucking nuclear, you'll know what I'm talking about. You'll know that nuclear libido. Like when you were 13 and you just started to fucking, get to it. That level. So after my 250 milligram SIP injection once a week, when should I take the AI? Day 2 or day 3 is what I would suggest you do. It's like if you want to hyper run the labs for estradiol ultrasensitive, you should do that so that you can get an idea of where things are going and how to better time it. But here's the logic: at the end of the at your trough on 250 milligrams a week, it's the day 4, day 5, day 6. The estrogen's already going down. It's already going down. All right. So if you then take an AI the day of injection, the estrogen is already lowish. Then it's going to be lower. And this is where you run the risk of crashing estrogen. So if you give yourself 2 days after injection for estrogen to come up, and then you stop some portion of that continuous conversion to estradiol via aromatase from your test, that ends up being a much better picture for people. Yeah, I hope that makes sense, man. Are the reported negative side effects of AI mainly just from nuked estrogen? Any reason you would use or take more Arimidex than Aromacin? For me, I just wanted to, libido, sensation, erections were starting to go south, and I just wanted to solve it. And I've already figured out a Arimidex dosing on pretty much every dose of test, so I just was like, let me just do that. I don't have any Aromacin either, so I had a ton of Arimidex. But this is what I think regarding your question. I have never, on sufficient test, taken the right dose of an AI and had like joint pain or side effects or anything. The only thing that noticeably happens with my body is within the first 24 hours, I pee more, right? You're dumping water weight. You've blocked some of estrogen's effect on antidiuretic hormone. So you have less of it, presumably. And so you're not holding as much water, which is generally a good fucking thing, right? It's generally a good thing. Water retention is not great for you. It's actually not good for your health. Where like weird shoulder pain or otherwise joint pain comes into the picture is if you don't have enough test to support lowering estrogen with a powerful drug like Arimidex. If you're sitting at 150, and a lot of cases, depending on people's injection frequency, the estrogen might still be out of balance with the DHT. So they try to take AIs and then they overshoot and get the joint pain and all that shit. If you're on 200 or 210 or 250 and you take 0.125 milligrams in astrazole, assuming you're a normal aromatizer, you're not going to crash the estrogen. Dude, I've run 3 iterations of an AI in the last 3 weeks. First 0.25 and then Maintenance doses of 0.125 every 7 days. Zero joint pain. Zero effects at all, except for I'm in the fucking sex zone. That's it. But I have overshot aromatase inhibitors, conversely, in the past and gotten joint pain. It's overshooting. That is what I think at this point. My opinion could change on that, but I think that it's overshooting. Mav's DHT is at 10 on 40 a prop a day. Well, where's your total T going, and are you troughing? Did you test this at the trough? If you tested this at the peak, you may have taken finasteride in the past or are taking finasteride, which blocks DHT conversion. Those are things I would think. Thank you for the super chat. Brother! Good morning, brothers. Protocol is great with 30 a test prop daily, but tired of daily injections. Yeah, I know that's another reason, that I'm very happy with doing once a week. I mean, I'm going on a trip to the Jersey Shore at the end of August. Depending on where the injection day falls, I'll likely not have to take my testosterone with me. I love that. I don't want to take it. Dude. Who cares? It's not a huge deal to take it, but pinning every day would be. If you want to try a long ester, I would try either, man. You can dial them both in. At 30 a prop, I don't know where your total peak is going, so it's hard to say where you should go. But if it's test E, I would start at 200 milligrams a week. I would do probably about, 140 every fifth day, whatever equals 200 milligrams a week if you do every fifth day. That's a great starting frequency for test E. If you're doing cypionate, do it every sixth or seventh day is what I would suggest you do. And I'd start at 200 on cypionate as well. Give that some time. See if you ultimately need a managed estradiol, which again would be, you'd end up in a place where erection quality starts to fail, nocturnals go away, sensation dulls, libido gets disconnected during sex. And then I would microdose an AI with the logic that I gave in the video that was posted yesterday, Friday, August 14th. That's your answer, dude. The E2 conversion seems so stupid. It's not actually jumping out of a plane with a parachute that kills you. It's abrupt impact on the ground. Yeah, okay. All right, brother. Yeah, I mean, I don't know where we got off track, and listen, I think the Prussian camp maybe thinks like I'm a retard or something. Listen, I've examined both sides heavily. I'm not seeing. Here's the thing. And this is why I think some of their defectors come my way with obvious problems, erectile problems, libido problems, sensation problems. They're not dialing them in on TRT. I think that I don't care which, I'm not attached to any piece of advice. I see what happens and I report it. You know what I mean? So I have no mentor that's going, hey man, dude, estrogen's cardioprotective and all this stuff and all the side effects you might get on TRT are not estrogen. They're this, and this, and you've got to fucking, unnecessarily take T3 and all this other bullshit. I see what works. I want to be honest with my audience and clients, and that's all. Is it ideal for some people to have to take additional drugs like aromatase inhibitors on TRT? Not really. Is it the only way they're going to have a great experience and be dialed in while keeping their health perfectly fine? Yes. That's all I care about. That's all I care about. And my record, there aren't many guys out there, unless they were non-compliant, that still have ED and erectile issues after they dealt with me in a consulting capacity. We get them squared away. I'm having soft erections and premature ejaculation. Break your protocol down and maybe I could help. Would Proviron cause cardiovascular problems? No. Taking it with aspirin. Your doc told you to take it with aspirin? Okay. You have low HDL. I'm taking SSRI. I think that might be the reason. High prolactin. Yes, you've got very many other fucking variables here that you need to look at. This has been bro science for decades. Blast T, pop an AI, go to town. Yeah. Well, I mean, the bros always figure things out, I mean, again, part of what I think gives, in this case, MDs a disadvantage is the way they structure their thinking, right? So rather than observe what may be actually happening, they'll operate strictly from like the notion that since there's no piece of literature that shows us that reducing estradiol is beneficial, that means it's true. Again, the whole fallacy of the absence of proof means a thing isn't true. From a common sense perspective, that is fucking stupid. It is purely stupid. Yeah, those guys need to wake up or not. I mean, frankly, I'm perfectly fine with them being exactly where they are because I don't care. You know what I mean? I'm just doing what works. Opioids and weed release prolactin. Yeah, they cause prolactin. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your comment, man. It means a lot. Optimal dose to push the limits on TRT be about 250. Yeah. That's where I'm at. I'm at the line, and I tried to push it without taking an AI, and that failed. 3 weeks ago. So I've had to control estrogen, and things are fucking beautiful now. But for the first 2 months, I didn't have to do it because it was rising and affecting the tissues, and then it gets to a threshold, and then you got to control it. But 250 would be it. Yeah, 250 is that dose. It's on the borderline, right? 250 in my opinion is sports TRT. 250 to 350 is sports TRT. 350 plus is a cycle. It's a low level cycle at 350, especially when you've run 500 or know people who run 700 or a gram or 2 grams. But that's my idea of the breakdown of TRT versus sports TRT versus cycle. Yeah, I'm taking HCG 75 IU once a week. I do that on day 2 at this point with the 0.125 milligrams of Arimidex. It works out wonderfully. Good solution for hair loss. There is no solution here on 250 a week. I'm not having it. So again, my genes are pretty good regarding that. The best piece of advice I could give you is try lowering the dose if this is a problem. You can take some tocotrienols, which can help. There's some literature suggesting TB500, which is like kind of a muscle reparative or tissue reparative peptide, can help with hair growth or the prevention of hair loss. You can microneedle, derma roll, but don't do any topicals, Even if the internet claims it doesn't cause sexual dysfunction, minoxidil can cause full-blown PFS in people. I've had those clients personally. Don't block DHT with anything, drug or supplement. Saw palmetto will give you ED if it's taken too aggressively. And maybe consider lowering your dose. I mean, that's unfortunately with hair loss, we don't have a solution. We don't have a solution, but some of those things I suggested, we just don't have a solution. It's one of those, if you're destined to get it, you're going to get it. Some people that ship has sailed for them and they're bald now. They're just shaved their head. I'm lucky enough to have good genes where I don't lose hair on TRT unless I'm dosing DHT or DHT derivatives. Christopher took my advice doing 200 milligrams once a week on Thursday. Arimidex 0.2. Okay, so that's 0.20. Fair dose on Saturday. Yeah, 2 days after. That's good. Was on cream before and it was great, but this is much more convenient and feels stronger in the gym. Absolutely. You might have to further dial it in. Again, watch the video I posted yesterday on how to think about this from a conditional logic perspective on dosing Arimidex. Yeah, you want it to be structured and you want to do it the best possible way to not have side effects or not crash the estrogen and keep yourself in the zone for sexual function, but it can easily be dialed in. And maybe this is it for you. This is it. On 200 for me, 0.2 once a week would be slightly too much, but maybe it isn't for you. The convenience factor though, regarding cypionate injections infrequently is so substantial. It's so substantial. I got to the point where I really would, I don't want to go, I'll do it if I somehow feel like I want to or need to, but I don't need to or want to. I just don't want to inject every day. I think it's completely unnecessary, completely unnecessary, at least inject every other day. But even then, so I still feel like that's unnecessary. The side effects people get it can be addressed in other ways, It seems you recommend an AI first before DHT derivative or DHT self. Not necessarily. It's just for me in my particular case on 250 test, I know exactly what doses of aromatase inhibitors, both the common ones that I would need to take to get my estrogen in like the sweet spot where everything functions really well. So that's it. I don't have any Primobalin on me, and I don't have any Masteron on me. And that's probably why. I did have a bunch of Arimidex, so I was just like, okay, let's do that. DHT derivatives can crash E2 as well. Yeah. Go Google Masteron killed my dick Reddit. Go read it. Because could it crash the guy's Masteron crashed the guy's estrogen? You know, search primobolan and crashing estrogen in the TRT, the steroids, and the testosterone subreddits. You can crash your estrogen with Masteron. You can crash it with DHT, and you can also crash it with Proviron, depending on the context of your dose of TRT. One of my favorite things about DHT has been the ability to run slightly higher HCG in tests. Yeah, right, because it's managing the estrogen. That's why it's useful in that regard. Again, I would take that over an AI, but it nukes my hair. It nukes the old scalp, dude. It nukes it. I ain't happy. Yeah, better sensation. Bigger balls. What would you theorize? Wait, what? What would you theorize the effective differences of DHT prop versus enanthate? That's a hard one. I mean, just different half-lives here. DHT prop would hit quicker. You know, you could dial it in quicker. It troughs faster. Enanthate's about a 5-day half-life. I don't have any plans to use DHT. I still have loads of liquid DHT, like DHT oil, that I had gotten from Source List. I have loads of it. I've got the 7 milligram per dropper, and I have a diluted one in a brand new dropper vial that's full of 1 milligram per drop. So I have so much of it. I just don't know what to do with it. But I probably won't take it anytime soon. I'm dialed in. I don't feel like I need to. All right, we got to get to some other guys here. Trevor Pelletier. Thanks for the super chat, bro. I'm on 140 tests weekly. Hematocrit is climbing to 52. Ferritin is lowering to 38. Each month, HCT is climbing and ferritin goes down. Suggestions. That's a hard one, man. Are you giving blood? Is that why your ferritin is low? Because that'll happen. Yeah, it's a real tricky one because if you take iron, your ferritin is going to go up, but so is your hematocrit. So is the hematocrit. I don't really have suggestions on this other than to try to take some naringin. It's an extract from grapefruit that you can find in a powder or supplement form that lowers hematocrit over time. It does do that. I'd be drinking about a half a gallon of water a day and doing cardio to try to lower the hematocrit as well. Yeah. And you might combo that with a little bit of actual iron so you can get the ferritin up. I mean, that's to the best of my knowledge what I would suggest you do. You know, I'm not one of those guys that thinks climbing hematocrit is a good idea. Because it's all part of the same camp, right? They all say the same things. It's like they're fucking automatons. The people in Colorado. Okay, we've heard that argument before. Give us something else. How about a little bit of fucking granularity? Just a little bit of originality. How much E2 would you estimate a 15 milligram weekly dose usually helps with the E2 load? Like going from 115 sip to 100 sip? Probably about 5 to 10 picograms per milliliter. Dude, if you're down here and still having estrogen problems, you should go up to 170 to 200 and manage estrogen with an AI. And boys, I'm going to end on that. I've got some stuff to do. I've got to try to get a walk in before it maybe rains today. I've got to come back. I got to have some coffee. I got to do a little bit of Call of Duty. And then we got to prepare for the fights tonight. I'd like to watch Ian Gary win, but just for someone to beat one of the Dagestanis. But Islam's a fucking good fighter. It's going to be an incredible fight. I can't wait to watch it. It might be over really soon, and Islam might go out there and just Khabib Gaethje the guy, which would be pretty nuts. But we're going to see. I haven't really studied Ian Gary enough to know does he have good cardio, but I've certainly studied Islam, and he's an absolute animal. Brothers, 20% discount on all digital products down in the description. The TRT Protocol Audit and the TRT Protocol Sexual Function Consult are popular. Get the job done, especially sexual function consult for libido and erection issues, and don't require long coaching. Coaching is still available on the website. If you need me at your side for 3 or 6 months and you've got the budget, that is obviously for more serious individuals with the budget. And otherwise, kick ass, rock on. Great questions. I will see you guys all this week for content. We're going to be killing it until the end of the month, and I'll be away between the 25th of August and like the 1st or so of September. So we'll have to take a break then in between. Fucking killing it. See you then. See you Monday. Peace, brothers. Peace. interesting.